Hey, welcome Wargamers, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. I am so excited to talk about today's reveals. I started like 30 seconds early, so we'll wait just a hot second. Yesterday, Games Workshop had a massive reveal for Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Underworlds, Warhammerquest, all these kinds of things, but before that was ever scheduled, I was out. I had planned to go out and visit family who we hadn't seen in some time, and so it was a wonderful day where I got to spend time with my all my in-laws, and but I was able to miss stuff yesterday, so we're doing this today. So this is a day-old take. I apologize, but the fact that I see 28 viewers in there tells me that people still want to hear my opinion even a day late. So that makes me feel very special. I'm not going to lie to you, because I was like, honestly, like, what if I turn this thing on and nobody wants to like hear me ramble a day after about something that everyone else has already been talking about? So, those things aside, pretentification, yes, I am quite live. And I thought that we would just kind of work through these things together. I'm going to have the screen over here on my angle, and I'll just kind of pan over and chat with you guys. Like whenever I do a While You're Reforging, basically because they put out so much information, let's move in the chat to where I can see it a little easier. What I'm going to do is in between, reveals and segments, I'm going to pause and I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Again, it's had a day to percolate inside your brain, and I'd love to hear it. So absolutely, let's do that. So here we are on the main page. I also have some other pictures pulled up to the side, but I'll get to those when it's relevant. So I'm going to read this because, again, lots of folks who are driving for a living and constantly moving don't have time to read all these things. So, have you recovered from the dead and the divine yet? We're not sure that we have. After seeing those vampires, we now sleep with our windows closed and a wooden stake under our pillow. We're going to have to sharpen a few more stakes after today's Mortal Realms special, featuring big reveals for, and then it goes through the 3 games: Age of Sigmar, Underworlds, Warhammerquest. I'm not going to play the actual live stream of these guys, although I will say Adam Troke's my boy. I found a bunch of old white dwarfs with him in it, and I was just like, this guy's just been baller forever. So, absolutely, and Eddie is sweet. So they did a great job. Here we go. Doug, I'm hungover. I cannot help you with that, buddy. Because you got quite a blast yesterday. Volsky, how's everything? It's going well. Good morning. Excited to see the show. Working on KO Warband for Warcry. Nice. Sweet. That's the only game that I wish we had something for here, even just a mention, but whatever. And potentification, I was pretty disappointed with the models. I want Doug's enthusiasm to help me come around. You've got it, so let's get into it. So it kicks it off talking about the light of the Lumineth gets brighter. So I went ahead and pulled all these videos up, and I turned off the audio. So I'll just kind of talk about what's going on there. Last year, a new faction came to the Mortal Realms with the giant celestial beasts, hollow suits of armor, and living mountains. A new unit of cavalry is already in the pouch for 2021. But did you think that the Lumineth Realm Lords were done? Well, yeah, we kind of did, because you sold us a book that made it seem like it was a complete army. That's my first thought. But yeah, and so we're seeing pictures of the new realm. I will say I adore this model. I'm not going to stop it because there's better pics below. It's the leader guy, and then we have the new Ballista, a couple of sword or great sword looking units. And yeah, it just kind of highlights on some of those. Let's see. We have a new lore master style thing, and a pretty cool Zen garden water fountain thing going on. I dig that quite a bit. Not quite sure how it ties into wind, but all right, I'm here for it. There's some model I want to talk about here in a second, because it's probably the one I struggle with the most. And then there's the nice panning shot of all the beautiful Lumineth all together. So, all right. We're going to scroll down. The ranks of your Lumineth armies are set to swell further thanks to a whole host of new models. Feast your eyes on these. First up are the Vennari Blade Lords. So let's I'm going to go through the article and then we can talk about our feelings on it. Just because I don't want to get bogged down and have this take like 9 hours. So we have the Blade Lords. I will say, when it comes to the Lumineth, I love anything Vennari. Anything that has that base high elf aesthetic, where it's like high elves being reimagined in Age of Sigmar, I'm on board. I have yet to see a model that I don't like. I guess the only one that just didn't grip me was the Scenari Cathalar, the weeping girl with like the whatever, the incense bowl or whatever. It's like smoking. That was the only model that really gripped me from the first release. But we're looking at these here. We have double-handed swords, and this guy is rocking a claymore. I'm curious if that's going to be a like if those are going to be two different kits, not two different kits, but like two optional builds, or if it's like a special weapon that you can throw, a couple in per couple guys. Or maybe it's the other way around, because there's only one dual-wielding bro, and everybody else is rocking one claymore style thing. So that's super cool. I like it quite a bit. As far as their aesthetics go, I love everything about them. I love the helmets of all of the Lumineth models. Just the way they enclose things, but just they feel very elfy. Even just like the scale style chainmail stuff. I remember my first models I ever painted for High Elves, which was my first Games Workshop army. When I got into the game right before AOS launched. What are they called? Lothorn Sea Guard, the guys that came in the starter set. Yeah, they had that same kind of scale look on their armor, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really cool. It's a good contrast to the chainmail traditional stuff. So I like these models quite a bit. Just in case a unit of elves that are talented in the arts of the sword doesn't quite give you the warming hit of nostalgia that it should, here are the Vennari Starshard Ballistas. Now, this is an interesting one, okay? So we're looking at a ballista that fires 2 rounds. I absolutely love the fact that they brought the ballista back. I feel like that was kind of a missing thing from the initial release of like, okay, if you're pitching us on High Elves, you got to have something like that. Or I don't know. I just feel like it was a very iconic unit when I was playing High Elves. I loved it. So we have the ballista here. It's firing 2 arrows. It's kind of doing the whole Three Stooges thing where it's like, someone tries to defense with their hand between their eyes, and then Mo just goes in with separate hands. That's exactly what's happening here. Fully expect if you roll double 6s with your attacks on this thing, I thematically, you've shot them in both the eyes. So that's just how I'm going to play it. As far as the actual model, I'm kind of curious as to what these little... they kind of look like lawn lights. The little like solar panel lights you would like stick in your lawn to like illuminate your sidewalk at night. I'm not sure what's going on with those, but they're cool little basing bits, and I can use that for something else. Someone said, okay, no, you're talking about something else. We'll get there. But overall, I do like it quite a bit. I wish their helmets... I don't know how I feel about those. I guess what I really like when it comes to a lot of the Vennari helmets is they come in and they cover the mouth, and I love the way that the mouth is covered on the other ones. And they don't quite do that here, but then again, they're not... like in combat units that would need to protect their face, right? These are guys standing back with the gun. For those who prefer to raise monuments to Teclis, here is the Shrine Luminor that can purify even the most corrupt of battlefields. And so here we have the Lumineth terrain piece. It is a Zen garden with all the fixins to have a relaxing meditation time. I'm curious as to what they mean by, removing corruption and that kind of stuff. I almost wonder if it's going to be a terrain piece that mitigates other terrain pieces' rules. So, like, that would be kind of cool. If you put a Nurgle tree on the board and your Lumineth player drops this down, do they cancel out? Or, those kinds of things. With terrain being so important, having an army that says, nah, like, that's really good. Because there are a few factions for Slaves to Darkness now, the sub-factions, that can do that kind of stuff, where like the demons can go in and raise and corrupt the terrain and shut it down, which is like just a kick in the nuts for like Sylvaneth or something like that. This really is a cool terrain piece. I might actually grab one just for Warcry, to be perfectly honest with you, because I love the idea of like decking this thing out, having, you know, the water be blood and all these kinds of weird things. Maybe I'll get some nurgly bits in replacement of the trees. I just think it is probably one of the few terrain pieces that I want to own as a piece of terrain, right? Not in relation to an army, not about rules, not about, you know, any of that stuff. Gatebreaker, thank you. Yeah, he also does shut down stuff. I just want to own it because I think it would look super rad. And that's, you know, I mean, honestly, most terrain pieces I don't feel that way about. I think the other one is, I really like the Ossiarch Bone Reaper Tower because it's such a commanding presence that if you put that in the center of a Warcry board, it looks like you're at a sacrificial site or something. Like, I really do appreciate that one. So, yeah. Oh, wow. Turn that flowing river into pus. Exactly. Yeah, can you imagine? So imagine where they put blue, right? Do green, but like a light green. And then if you put Nurgle's Rot against the edges where there's like sitting water and that kind of stuff. Oh, it would look so good. It would look so good. So anyway, yes, the Ossiarch one is quite massive. I know that. And that's the only reason I don't have it, because I was like, well, I would want a few other things, because if I got that piece of terrain, that takes up darn near most of the Warcry board. So I would want a few little odds and ends, specific things to go around it. So it's going to happen on the channel, but I'll figure that out later. Here we go. To lead your new units into battle, there's a selection of heroes. The Lumineth add a unique set of magical and martial skills to your army, including the Hadouken, Spirit of the Wind, which is an alternate build for Severeth, who we showed off last month. This would be the fox that's jumping over the moon. And here we have our new hero. So, this is the guy I was talking about in the video. I absolutely love where he's not Kangaroo Cav. He is on something else. He's Gazelle Cav. And I love the way that the armor looks. He keeps the scale aesthetic going. I love any beast that has a long enough neck that they have like the armor. I don't know why I love like the barding armor that goes up the front of the neck on animals. I just really like that because, I mean, selfishly, it's because I'm really bad at painting like some of those deeper, darker recesses of like organic things. And so having it be a metal, I feel like it's very much easier to paint, and then I can just focus more on the pop color of whatever I want the beast to be. Unfortunately, he is going over a hero rock, which, you know, I never quite care for, but it's cool nonetheless. I do like him quite a bit. I feel like I'm curious as to how big he's going to be, because anytime I am now paranoid, when I look at a Lumineth model and I see a piece of it standing up in the air, I have like flashbacks to when I was trying to build my spearmen, whatever the basic Vennari spearmen are, with a literal 3-inch range on their weapons, and in the rules, where you're just like, this spear is going to snap instantly. Okay, so I like that guy quite a bit. This, I'm going to say, is the only model that doesn't grip me in this release. There's a whole bunch of ones that I like, even though I'm not interested in picking up Lumineth again. This is the one where I'm like, okay, it reminds me immediately of the Sileski Slanesh thing, where you have a big, chonky, muscle-bound demon prince at the bottom, and then like there's a demonette or herald Slanesh on his shoulders, and they kind of, you know, work as one unit, that kind of thing. It seems very much like that. The thing is, though, I feel like with the Sileski one, the bottom guy, who's the muscle-bound brute, he has this big harness all over him where Sileski can like move around. Sorry, yeah, I think that's her name. Where the demonette can move around and stuff like that, and he is plodding forward. Whereas this, I look at this, I'm like, these look like two separate models. The bottom guy, if you just literally cut that foot off, this looks like a complete pose where he's not moving forward or carrying anyone into combat. He doesn't look like he's ready to have someone dancing on his back or something. I don't know. It just doesn't quite work for me. It feels like they glued two models together rather than, or I feel like the Slanesh one, it didn't resonate with me. I feel like that one did a great job of having, a BA melee beast carrying a character into battle, whereas this feels like we have a model where someone's jumping and there's a bird on her. What are we gonna do on it? Glue it to that guy, that kind of thing. As far as the individual models, he is incredible. The guy at the bottom, I assume it's male. I think so. But, I love all the pageantry he's got going on with the big tassels. Love tassels. Got to get the curtain rods in there. The armor and all that stuff. It all looks beautiful and fantastic. I'd love to see a 360 of this to try to get a sense of how much overhang there is. We can tell there's a bit with this owl up here, but for him, I think he's a stunning model. And quite frankly, if I was ever forced to play a Lumineth army, I would just literally just cut her off the top and take him and just, like, hey, we all know who this is. We don't need a ballerina on top. As for that ballerina, I do not know how I feel about her. Again, this to me up here is really the sore spot of the model. I love the owl. Keep owl aesthetics. We need more owls. I demand a future like Futurama where owls are the new pigeons and they're just kind of everywhere. So yes, more owls. I love the staff that she's holding. It looks very cool. I guess I feel like, let me see if I can find a picture. I got this, guys. Let's see. It kind of feels like this weird amalgamation of like a Power Rangers jumpsuit, but like when they're not in full armor. I should have done this earlier. I'm not finding a good picture now, but that's kind of what it feels like. She's in like a flight suit, but she ain't going anywhere. Is pretty much how it looks to me. And then her headdress. I mean, I feel like the headdress would fit. Like what she's got going on here, it would fit if she was wearing a more regal outfit, but this seems like a very utility thing, so I would expect a more utility looking helmet is kind of what I'm getting at. So, I'm going to skip this song because it's super annoying. No idea why it's even on the relaxed playlist. Here we go. Yeah, so that's the only model that really stood out to me as being different. But then we get this guy, and he is my favorite. He is like a lore... He's not a lore master, because that's the other guy, but absolutely, yeah. That's certainly his function. He is a battle wizard, essentially. He's got the cool staff. He's got the warrior helm, where it comes and covers the face, like I talked about earlier, that I love, and a sword. Absolutely love this guy. 10 out of 10. Would kick your face in. Lore Keeper, thank you, Cheesy Sword. I love that name, by the way. So I like him. There's nothing about him that is out of the norm that I expected from this faction. In fact, I mean, we'll get to this when I kind of do my sum up thoughts, but I probably would have kept my Lumineth if he existed, because I like making my own heroes, and the only unnamed characters we got in the first battle tome were a Stone Mage and the sad crying emo girl. Yeah, so we're going to move on. And we have this guy, who I don't really know. Can someone throw in the chat what his name is? Because I know they put out a series of posts. Doug the lore guy likes the lore guy. Yeah. Wow, people who like lore are just dead sexy and fully armed and have all the weapons and all the fame and all the fortune. Let's see. This one here. Looks like more of a scribe, calligrapher, basically. Yeah, okay. I like it quite a bit. He's got sort of like a researchy kind of look to him, and I like that quite a bit. I'll call him Henry. That's funny. The Vennari calligraph or something like that. Okay, I could definitely see that. I'm not quite sure, because the only Vennari thing we have besides this is the Cathalar, sad emo girl. So I'm kind of curious as to how he fits into the Vennari thing, but I'm excited to learn. And then we come to Son Goku, and I am very excited about this guy. He was one that I mentioned in a lore video where the wind spirits of Hysh were fighting against a Tzeentch incursion, and it mentioned that there were wizards being held aloft on clouds, and this guy just does not disappoint. I like him quite a bit. The only question I have about the model is how the flight stand connects, because that can kind of be a problem for some models. It's so hit or miss when they do those things, because for every, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a flying model I've never had any problems with. I mean, Helldrake, I've never had a problem with Helldrake. There's, Carriage and Overlord Bloom Boys who just snap when you look at them. So I'm kind of curious about that. I wish there was a 360 so I can see how the slot plugs in. But as far as the model goes, absolutely love it. There's been a lot of talk about, like, can Games Workshop, create good looking clouds? For me personally, I have always liked the way GW does smoke and flames and clouds and gas and that kind of stuff, because does it look realistic? No. It looks about as realistic as a guy with gazelle horns flying a cloud could possibly be. But does it convey the thought of a cloud, smoke, whatever, in a way that you can paint it pretty quickly and understand what you're looking at? Yeah, they nailed it. So I think that's wonderful. I want to know why he's kind of got a weird little fan thing going on back here, but yeah. I love Son Goku. Yes, absolutely. Give me a second. We were out until super late last night visiting family, so I'm like slamming coffee right now. Then we have a standard bearer, and again, I look at this model, and I'm like, this army, they are compensating for something. There's a flaw in the Deepkin that keeps them from, having stable souls and vision, obviously, for the Namarti. But there must be some defect in the Lumineth where they feel the need to compensate. I'm assuming for penis size. I don't know. But like this thing, I just, when I look at this singular dude with a banner of the gods who's like, breaking the surly bonds of earth and touching the face of God, I wonder how tall that is compared to the terrain piece. That should be the dominating thing. So it looks absolutely insane. I'm curious. I'd love to see a 360, because I want to know if the helmet, this little fan part right here, attaches to, or if it brushes up against the actual banner. And the reason is, if it does, I think that would be a pretty stable piece. Like, all the leverage is then not just on this wrist and arm joint. It would be secured here where it meets the hair and here. So it would be like a nice two place where you can plastic glue and bind it. If it's not, I just imagine that this thing's going to bow. It's going to get some flaccid staph syndrome, and that arm is going to snap at some point, because it does not take a lot of leverage to either A, move these things, which I should point out, if he's a solo unit, you got to just hot glue some quarters or something to the bottom of this guy's base, because he's going to tip if you just blow on the table. But it's COVID time, so please don't blow on the table. Unless you're just like looking to win by having your opponent get mad and walk away. The banner screams eyes above the waist. Exactly. Up here, the light of Hysh, up here. And then we have what I'm assuming is the non-named variant of the Fox, the Skyfox. So I love him quite a bit. I do like the other one more, because I feel like the other one where he had the bow pointed kind of downward, like he was glaring at his enemy, the bow looked more like the classic high elf bolt throwers, and that to me was a very key part of the aesthetic that I was like, oh, I like this model a lot. This guy is very cool. I'm sure he's going to be more popular, because non-named characters always are, because you can like do stuff with them in terms of artifacts and that kind of thing. So very cool stuff. I like them quite a bit. Now let's see. We'll be taking a closer look at these outstanding models as we get closer to their release date, but we just had to call out the twins, Eliana and Elethor. These youthful prodigies have caught the eyes of the elven gods, with Teclis favoring Eliana and Tyrion tutoring Elethor. Okay, so Teclis trained the mage, Tyrion trained the warrior of the two models that we thought didn't fit together, which is probably helps explain a little bit why they don't fit together. Hopefully they won't pick up any of their teacher's bad habits. That's not a good omen. That's not a good thing to bank on when it comes to elves in general. Alongside these new units comes an updated battle tome for the Lumineth Realm Lords, packed with lore, war scrolls, and allegiance abilities for the followers of Teclis. Specifically. Okay. If you've already taken the plunge into the world of Elfkind and picked up a copy of the first Battle Tome Lumineth Realm Lords, you can get all of the war scrolls for the new units in Broken Realms Teclis, the new book that's coming out. There's never been a better time to be a follower of the Archmage. So, I'm going to pause right there, because that's the ending of the Lumineth. Let's talk about this. Okay, so initial thoughts. One, as far as the models go, I love everything that we saw, with the exception I said before of the two twins. But I do really like the Swordmaster style unit. I really like the Leader Cav. All of the other heroes who are like mages and that kind of stuff are just freaking cool. I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. I'm very curious the way that they talked about the Battle Tome, which we'll get to in a second. I'm curious if they're going to have new spell lores and that kind of stuff, because now they do have more kinds of heroes that can use those things. Or, I mean, we did have a toolbox of spells before we had really enough casters to make use of them, you know, in terms of like the Scenari abilities and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I guess the main sticking point for me is that I feel like there was absolutely no reason to have a first battle tome. Like, if this faction had launched like this all at once, where now we have sword masters and spearmen and cavalry and all this stuff for Vennari, for folks who just like the classic high elf aesthetic. Oh, and the bolt thrower thing is just rad looking. I feel like that would be a slam dunk. And then, of course, there would be the wind stuff and the stone guy things. But man, half an army separated by a year, I didn't like that. I'll be honest. It kills a lot of my enthusiasm for this faction. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. But, you know, and then as Leviticus just pointed out, where's Tyrion? Right? I mean, so is that the other half of this army that is somewhere? I don't know. So I guess I just feel like the release didn't make a dang bit of sense to me. And that's a bummer, because it kind of takes away from the enthusiasm I have for the models, because I do love these models. They are so cool. Like, specifically, see, you say it was most likely impacted by delays. I don't think so, because they had the full battle tome with all of the existing first wave units printed and made. It was supposed to be that way, as opposed to now there's an updated thing coming out with even more units, more lore. I don't know. And I just don't quite understand why they chopped it up. But, that being said, if you are a Lumineth player, like my boy Jack is, yeah, you're hungover. This is a wonderful day. I love the units they dropped. It makes me want to have some for Warcry, just a little warband. I mean, honestly, I don't really want a whole faction, but I would love to have the Swordmaster guys, maybe in some like blood red armor. I want this terrain piece so bad, and I'm so curious. 2+ stuff, yes, but you could argue the same for Hedonites. And I do. I don't like, for me, we mentioned this last time on the stream. For me, I want a battle tome to be good for at least 2 years. That's my thing. That's a shame, but at least they get more. I don't know. How do Iden and Thiepkin feel about it? Exactly. But I will say that everything was fantastic. Again, if you had any interest in playing Lumineth, I think this is it's a home run solid win, because I feel like it is more of a full faction now. And I'm excited to see more diverse lists on the table and different kinds of units, where it's not just spearman spam, or, you know what I mean? Like, because it had so few units, not because like people were being power gamey. There was only like 12 war scrolls in the entire book, and like half of them were characters. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like I didn't quite understand why they split it up. But let's assume just for a moment, we'll open our hearts again, and say that this is the entirety of the Lumineth army, barring future expansions that they've already hinted at with, expanding into new, like the water themed people or, whatever, because there's all those different side disciplines that are made perfectly to be like individual releases, which I'd love to see. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I really would welcome in. It's more just the Vennari stuff that I'm like, why wasn't this put out first? Whatever. So all in all, I think the Lumineth release was stellar. There's so many things there that I want without me even wanting the army, which to me is a pretty good metric for they're just really good sculpts and well made and all this kinds of stuff. So I like it quite a bit. Let's see. Scroll down. I will say though, I do like this cover art more. I don't know why. I really do. Tyrion, River, and Zenith are what's left. Okay, so we're going to hop into the next section here. So that was Lumineth. Does anybody have any last thoughts on them? For me, personally, I like them. I just don't understand. Games Workshop doesn't do a good job of, like, communication with their consumers. So I don't quite know what they were thinking. But, yeah, I'm here for it. Honestly, it really is. I will say this very clearly before we jump in while you guys are typing out your responses. It is very clearly one of my favorite books with lore. It's right up there with like Cities of Sigmar, where it's like, I feel as if they have a place within the story. They have their own side story arc, which is kind of an elven thing. They kind of do. But they have ample reason to go interact with literally every faction as they go around and try to do their own, fixing of the world from their own perspective and that kind of stuff. So I do love the faction. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not enthusiastic about it. I'm very anxious to get the lore because I want to dive into those new units and see the new stories that are in there, as far as like the histories and that kind of stuff. So I'm excited. I'm just a little bit confused, which I think a lot of, on a consumer level, a lot of Lumineth players are like, huh? But, whatever. We'll get into it. Biofoot, some of those would have been cool archetypes for Soulbound. I'm sure they'll come. But I think that they were only given the first wave of stuff, at Cubicle 7, I'm sure. They're like, oh yeah, we have this new Battle Tome coming out in a bit. And it was just, yeah, I don't know. It was just weird. I'm going to play this video here. We'll move on to the next thing. Okay, ooh, ethereal spooky. Something wicked way this way comes, says the text above. Okay, we got a cool little panning shot and some undead stuff. Those who defy me will know only torment, Nagash. And it is a new Night Haunt hero. Okay. So I'm just going to scroll down. We're going to look at his model here. I'll pull it up here, and if we need to see the 360 thing, I'll go to a specific shot. But this guy is freaking dope. He is clearly rigged up to a torture device. And it looks like he has torture equipment with him simultaneously. And that's like a very Nagash thing. John Penn, I think the issue is they were working on something else and these guys suddenly got pulled up to make something being delayed behind the scenes. But then why it costs so much money to print a book that's missing things? That doesn't make sense to me. But we'll move on. So we have this Night Haunt guy. I love him. He's super cool. I love like the torture aesthetic. That was something that I wanted to highlight when I did the Night Haunt lore week. Where, Nagash creates units and has, puppets and tools. However, they are also serving their own punishment. And so that's why you see like Grimghast or whatever like have nooses around their necks because they got hung. And there's the Mirmorn Banshees used to be healers, but now they're forced to like hurt people, but they are aware that they used to be healers, and so they're tormented constantly. This concept of doling out punishment both to you, but using you as a tool to dole out punishment to others is just super cool. And so this is obviously one. His arms are bound to this rack up on his like shoulders or back or whatever. And obviously as he pulls one arm forward, it pulls the other one up. And so they can't really, it looks like, close around each other. I mean, maybe because he has now, since he's died, stretched his arms out and been all creepy. But so not only is he being tortured in that way where he is bound to this thing, but also, if you look on the sides here, he has a whole bunch of tools and all these kinds of things, that torture devices that I'm assuming he uses to then inflict punishment upon others. So I absolutely love this guy. I think he is probably the coolest. Ooh, is he the coolest Night Haunt hero? I still like Lady Olander more. I'm not going to lie, but he is, to me, a close second. I'm curious as to what base size he is. He doesn't look, terribly big. We've seen little tombstones and stuff like that before. That's my only point of reference. And he's holding a skull. So can't imagine he's terribly large. And I know that every Night Haunt player was like, man, I wish I had more easy to kill 6 wound heroes. So there you go. Forget it. Anyway, no, I hope he brings something very unique. John Penn, I hope it looks like he's on a 40. Yeah, I could see a 40 mil base for sure. Absolutely. That's a good call. So yeah, I don't know. I hope he brings something unique that the army can use, effectively. Honestly, if they got this and a new battle tome, I would be super happy for Night Haunt players. Honestly, the book just needs a little bit of a rebalance, but the models are so stunning and they look so great, and this would be a cool addition. So I think he's absolutely fantastic. I don't have a whole lot more to say on that. I don't think they did a killer job with the etchings on the wood. It looks very rough. I like it. And other than that, he matches the rest of the faction perfectly. So yeah. To meet the Night Haunt challenge is a new Stormcast hero. So here we go. And this is one that I am very excited for, if you know me. So it's just covering one model, so I'm just going to leave it there on the artwork. So if you don't know, this model, they shared it on their Facebook pages and junk, but not their actual community page. So when I did my While You're Reforging, people were like, are you going to talk about the Gortys model? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just didn't see it. So yes, this is Gardas Steel Soul, the named character from the Hallowed Knights. That is the generally silver Stormcast with blue and gold trim. And it's such an important model. For the longest time, he could only be represented by Lord Celestant on foot, where, he does his twirl and the little hammers on his, tassels on his back fly out at you, which he was really cool when the game first launched. He was great. And I think he still is. I think he's still a pretty stable hero. But since I think the first year of AOS, Games Workshop largely just ignored all the characters they established, like Korgus Kull and Vandus Hammerhand and all these kinds of things. And I have been talking about how I really, as much as I just want new characters, right? Like, I don't have a problem with bringing in old world characters like Teclis and Gotrek and all those kinds of things. But it's like, well, this is a new place. I want new heroes and new stories that I can get attached to without having to, everything has to be bogged down in 30-year-old book bullcrap. So, anyway, that's all to say that I want new heroes. And so finally giving a model to what has been an extremely prominent character in Age of Sigmar lore made me so happy. Gardas, he has an entire series of novels based around him. He had the worst day at work ever when he was sent down initially when the Stormcast were taking Giran. To shut down a Nurgle gate, like a realm gate that led straight to the Garden of Nurgle, he charged straight up inside of it, and got it crushed down. Well, I think at first, didn't he ask Sigmar to strike him down and lightning struck it and then shut down the gate? That might have been Vandus. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's been 5 years. But anyway, at some point he ran inside the Garden of Nurgle and just ran for weeks of just literally Forrest Gump style, just started running. And then later in the Realm Gate War series, he pops out, just to be a Deus Ex Machina style hero. Comes out, looks down, and just barfs everywhere because he just ran out of the Garden of Nurgle. It's his first time taking a break. And immediately Great Unclean One tries to rip him in half, and somebody out of mercy shoots him, and he shoots back to his ear. So you're just like, Gart has had a rough AF day. So anyway, Jamie, can you use him in other Storm hosts? The way that the rules are written right now for the Stormcast book, yes. It's just that he won't get the benefit of any other Storm host, because the way it's written is you can take the heroes, but if they already have a chamber assigned to them, so he would be Hallowed Knights, he won't get like the Hammers of Sigmar bonus abilities if you bring him in a Hammers of Sigmar thing. So yes. And I think I'm going to get him just to paint him and have him on my shelf, to be honest. I love him. I liked this book. No, it's not Black Pyramid. What's the name of the book where he has this pose? Oh, it's downstairs. I was actually reading it recently. So absolutely cool. I love that there's a helmet and unhelmeted option. The unhelmeted option is exactly how they describe him in the books. And yeah, I just like him. He also has a presence in all the novels. When he is around, conversation stops and things get weird. If you have read any of his other stuff where like he enters, and because he's been reforged so much, like lightning crackles around him, and he just has this weird... he does have flashbacks to his human life where he was like an apothecary style guy, defending his what am I trying to say? His not customers, patients. There we go. My goodness. He was a healer trying to help his patients when a Nurgle plague ran through his area, and he was killed by Nurgle demons. So he has this like memory flashback of like being attacked by different Great Unclean Ones and stuff like that. It's so cool. He really is just the coolest character. Someone asked, does it say oof on his banner? It absolutely does. Which I think is the appropriate onomatopoeia, like comic book sound. If a Stormcast was to like arc from lightning straight into the ground and hammer with as much fury as this guy has on his face, I think oof is like a good response from pretty much anybody around him. So I like this model quite a bit. Let me look at the chat here. Like I said, I want to pause between sections. The Cruelgast Cruciator is the Nighthaunt guy. Thank you so much for that, pointing it out. I like the helmet option, so this could be a Lord Celestin for any Storm host. Absolutely. And that is a really cool point, Cheesy Sword, that like, if you like the model, he doesn't have to be Gardas. He can just be a Lord Celestin of badassery, and just then he can take whatever Storm host word you want. So yeah. Leviticus, super question. How is Nighthaunt going to fit in with Grave Lords? I don't understand the lore. They are skeletons, and there are ghosts, and there are Nighthaunt, just the spirit. Honestly, buddy, I don't know. But the second I know, I will share. Because that's a really good question. We honestly don't know anything about the Grave Lords other than they exist. We saw the one picture of the box, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know. I'd love it. It looks like there's a lot of stuff going on for Death, and it wouldn't break my heart at all if they were like, this is just a new iteration. We're not going to update Legions of Nagash, but we're going to take all the things in there and make them much more self-contained and that kind of stuff. I'd love it. But I it's not for everybody. So I'm not quite sure. I don't have an answer for your question. Stormcast Knight of Britonia. I guess nothing. I shots fired at fantasy players. I guess I feel like there's nothing quite Britonian about him, but if you paint him that way, that'd be rad. I know this isn't specifically about this model, but is there a sacrosanct hero? Yeah, there's a few. That's what my Nighthaunt and Stormcast box came with, and I want to be able to field things with synergy if I ever play. Is there a sacrosanct hero? Yeah, there's... Let me pull it up here. Because if you guys don't know, Stormcast names are like... I don't know, it's like reading a legal dictionary. Stormcast... I wish they had things. So you got what? Astria Soulbright. You have the Lord Exorcist. You have a couple of units as well. You can also use Stormsire's Cursebreakers, which is the Underworld's warband. He is a named character. Yeah. Go check those out. Let me pull my chat back up. Hopefully Hamilcar is next. I would give anything for a Hamilcar model. If you don't know, he is a Astral Templar. She's like a big warrior hunter guy, and everything is like this big boast. He's basically everything the Space Wolves in 40k wanna be. It's him, but he's much more fun about it because Viking aesthetics and stuff makes way more sense in Age of Sigmar, where he's just this big braggadocious, like, I am Hamilcar, fear me, and like he's just literally riding a boat towards a corn fortress in one short story that I just love, where he's just like, it's just like the slowest plotting get wrecked speech ever. That's all the whole story is basically. Oh man, let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and move on here. As factions across the mortal realms get drawn into the expanding narrative, more heroes rise, with even more rising from the grave. And this is all about one model, so I'm going to pause on a picture of him that looks good. I'll do that, and we'll head down here and take a look at the model itself, and we can always do a 360 if we need to later. So this is our White King on Death Steed, or it just says White King, but I imagine they'll keep the on foot version. I don't know, but so this is an absolutely stunning model. It's just what I want to see from Death. I don't know what else to say. I love all of the armor on the undead horse. I feel like his helmet with the little bat wings is just it's not a nod to what they did before. It's the exact same thing. Those helmets exist in like Graveguard kits, but I just love the way it looks. I just think he's absolutely stunning. I am curious again how tall he is, but with the spear shooting straight up into the sky and stuff, but he is an absolutely stunning model. They said this is a White King on mount, so you have a mounted option. Okay, cool. It gives me Army of Darkness feel. Exactly, yeah. I love him so much. I think the amount of hobby freedom here is phenomenal, where I look at this and it's like, you could absolutely prime him Wraithbone, Skeleton Horde, Blood Angels Red, and like some metal colors, and you're set. And he can be a very simple model to paint, or you can do what they did, which is just like, you can age and weather everything, and you can go all out. And I love when models, I feel like there's enough room so that painters who are less experienced can get it and still feel like, man, I made this model look dope. This is my favorite model I've painted. But that same model can be then taken to, someone who's been in the hobby for many, many years, and they can do something like this where it's just next level. You know what I mean? Like, but they still are happy with their work, and they both look good separately. That to me is like that's a sign of a good model. So yeah, probably the same as the new Chaos Knight. Yeah, that probably makes sense because he has the big banner. Fair enough. He looks so classic fantasy, like he just came out during the end times. Exactly. And that's kind of been a discussion that's been going on since they announced the Old World coming out, and then obviously Total War Warhammer 3 is this idea of like going back to fantasy style stuff. And I'm like, I feel like there's a middle, this guy, I think you nailed it. Portentification, like he looks so classic, but because he's an AOS, like there's so much more room for him in terms of like narrative and how you can design your Death Knight and all this stuff. I just absolutely love this model. I'm going to go ahead and just throw the queue out there. Go ahead and type your thoughts or questions in the chat right now. I'll give you just a minute here, and then we'll wrap up and go to the next section. There's a lot to cover today. This was a huge reveal. And we're not even at the thing that excites me. So, buckle up. So we're looking at this, and so I'm just going to ramble while if you guys have any last comments to throw in there. When I look at this guy, the first thing I want to do is paint him the same way I did my Chaos Warriors, where it's like the John Blanche color palette with lots of like faded and high contrast tones, make him look super rough and weathered. And yeah, Anonymous Plays Live, I'm okay with undead being closer to the old world. Yeah, I mean, dead's dead. Skulls apparently look the same in the old world as they do in the mortal realm, so I feel like Games Workshop should just play to their strengths and they're good to go. I love that guy. If I didn't own so much Stormcast already, I would love to do a dead group. fair enough. Looks like Soulblight will just be Legions of Nagash 2.0. That depends very highly, and I think that will be a book that is going to show us what they want to do with Legions of Nagash. Because there are so many models that don't have any necessary reason to be in a Soulblight book that are in the Legions, where it just makes me curious. So I'm hesitant to say things like that on the channel because I don't want someone who just got into the game with like Skeleton Horde Star Collecting Box to worry or not understand. I kind of just take things as they come. But the truth is, like, there's a lot of War Scrolls in there that I don't know a thing about. One model that if they were to update that I would sell most of the things on this shelf back here and buy a whole army of undead stuff for is a new corpse cart. Just throwing that out there. It doesn't really fit anywhere, but it's what it is. Pretentification. Oh, buddy, thank you so much. Little donation. Hype. Yeah, absolutely. This is a very exciting day. So, yeah. Every Mortarch will eventually get his own army. I would be super down for that. And that's the thing where it's like, a Soulblight book. I'm curious if it's going to have Manfred and Neferata, just Neferata, no idea. But you don't like the old corpse cart? No, I love the old corpse cart. I just like the new zombies more, and I want to see the old corpse cart with new zombie designs on it. I freaking love the corpse cart. I think it looks cool, but I'm really excited to see if they revamp, pun intended, vampire bloodlines. I have no doubt that they will. They've already kind of thrown those out there with some of the... Right? Didn't they? Aren't there rules for vampire blood? Oh, there were like a GHB or something like that. I don't know if that still counts. Okay, we're going to move on. And we have... I'm not going to watch the video because we've been kind of chatting about these guys for the last few weeks as they've given us previews. But is the Warhammer Underworld's Savage Orc Warband. And there are some really unique models here. I'm actually going to go this way. So this is a new one for us, the Archer guy. One thing I like about this, I'm kind of curious, how come he doesn't have a string? Like, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, you can put 3 strings on an elf model that is super tiny, but on a big fat orc, you can't give me one. You can't give me one string. Like, if you need a narrative reason for your savage orcs to fight Lumineth Realm Lords, say you're doing it for string. That's it. That's my narrative. Any battle, kind of like whenever I envision a battle report with like Gloomspite gets, I'm like, they're looking for bottles. Because in their lore, like, oh yeah, we need bottles for all the poisons and crap we make. And it's just like, absolutely. Like, everything's about bottles. This is the great bottle war. Every fight's a bottle fight. And I look at this and I'm like, they need string. And I just imagine like one of those, tug at your heartstring fundraiser things. Like, for only 30 cents a day, you can give shoelaces to an orc, to a bone splitter. So, yeah. Bly says it's just something to break. Yeah, I mean, but there's 3 of them to break on other models. I don't know. I'm just totally having fun. I don't actually care. But here's the thing, though, is that he is officially the only Savage Orc Archer who looks like he's about to shoot an arrow, because the other ones are just optional arms for the Savage Orcs that are just like running straight up towards you. No one looks like they're about to fire the bow. And if I remember correctly, I believe that's right. But yeah, so and then there's this guy who I said before, I like him. He fits right in. I love that he has a big, double-handed weapon, a special weapon type thing. We have Wolverine over here, who was the first model we saw. And this guy. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your names. Lauben. You make a very compelling point. It's interesting that they don't have war paint. I did not realize that. Where is the war paint? That's kind of that's a deep thing on these guys, actually. Boom. Such a solid point. Perfect for a Warcry. Oh, yes, they are. And then here we go to the Savage Boss. And, this is the Wargog Prophet. And I'm looking at this new mask, and I have to say I love it. The first one, the original, obviously was fine cast. It has its own problems with being breakable and stuff. I think Having one of these guys and a War God Prophet are going to look super cool on the table together if you just play them both as prophets. They just look stunning, and it's a warm-up for Age of Sigmar 3 String Wars. Yes. Yeah. String Hammer, Total String, coming to your PC soon. There's Savage Orcs, which is a bit different to Bone Splitters. Is it, though? I need to think about that one. Anyway, so talking about the aesthetics of the mask, I love it. I love like the big disc around him, and then it has like a little like crude version of just an orc face, just a tiny little green thing and then a big old gob. I absolutely love it. So very cool warband. Not sure when they're going to come out. I think they have a little calendar or whatever about that, but honestly, it's 2021. I don't pay attention to those anymore. Henrik, oh buddy, thank you so much. Might be like 40k. He thinks it works out with so much. Oh yeah, he thinks it works, so it just works without a string. Like his imaginary wah power is just like whoo, chucking the arrow forward. I love it. I love it. That's wonderful. And thank you so much, buddy, for chipping in the tip jar. I really do appreciate it. Our next thing here, we're going into Underworlds a little bit more. And this is a new 2-player starter set. For me, essentially it's the thing we've seen before where we have Stormcast versus Nighthaunt. So it's repurposed models. This is new starter set, contains the exact same Warhammer Underworlds game you've come to know and love, but it includes 2 pre-made decks, making it the best way to start playing the game. This actually means a lot to me. Deck building is the main reason I do not play Underworlds very much, and I think they're hearing that because they have made a shift where the cards you get in newer boxes of models and that kind of stuff allow you to basically play straight out of the box. Like if you buy a box of models, like from the Underworlds line, you can just play them. Same thing with the Savage Orcs, sort of like that. So it's interesting. I like the idea. I love the idea that this is now a new starter set. Hopefully, the thing is, I just want it to stay constant. Just have some constant product. And I hope that's what this is, because we don't need a new Beastgrave or Shadespire or, Night Vault. Fill in whatever, half a dozen releases they made for this game. And it's like, you keep giving me all these on-ramp points, but then you negate cards as they go. So as someone is getting in, I don't know. I just feel like... I understand they're kind of trying to appeal to the Magic the Gathering crowd, which does have cycles, right? Cards are now in play, and then other ones expire, and there's different formats. I totally get that. But I feel like when you start bringing in miniatures and the board game aspect, it needs to have just a bit more longevity. And so I'd love it if this product came out and they had it everywhere, and we're like, these are cards that will not expire, and they're all very tame, and they're all nothing game breaking, no super combos. In fact, quite frankly, what I'd love, if I'm honest with you, the thing that would make me buy this product immediately, Games Workshop, if you're listening, how you doing? Have some coffee. It's great. If they had decks for these warbands that could be used, with the exception of the character cards, for any warband. If you came out with the most bland vanilla deck that was like, hey, literally any warband can use this. Oh, did you get some weird out of print Fire Slayer stuff and all the cards are expired? You can't use those. You still have the models. You still have the unit cards, like what each individual hero does. Buy this, right? Like, I feel like that's the key that I need. Some anchor, some constant that I can go back to and be like, I can at least functionally participate in a game. So I feel like that's just what we need. Or, you don't have to put it bundled up in a 2-player starter set, although I do recommend it. I would say even if they do, hey, here's a deck of cards that literally any warband can use, and there's instruction in there that was like, and here's a pre-designed deck to get you playing, right? I mean, that's basically it. Daniel says, so like neutral cards in other games. Exactly. And there are neutral cards here, but I want stuff that doesn't phase out and is specifically a pre-made deck to start playing immediately, right? Not just that neutral cards exist, but that buy this, have character cards for your box set, boom. So, I don't know. That's my thought. Anybody else agree, disagree? What do y'all... Sorry about that. Terrible heartburn. Anybody else agree, disagree? What do you think? I will say, these are super fun models, though. We painted those for the same models that came in the Crypt Hunters box that they sent me. And I had a joy putting them together. They're very cool looking. Make it a lot more accessible. Yeah. An option to just buy the card would be nice. Yeah. It's just... Again, it's why I refuse to get into this game until the pandemic's over, because it's like, why would I buy the physical version? Stuff's gonna be out of the play before I even have a chance to really get a normal gaming group going. And that's the thing where it's like, I want to love Underworlds so freaking bad. Help me love it, Games Workshop. There we go. Let's see. John Penn, I don't think I quite understand your question. It has this not going... is it going to Barnes & Noble? Okay. I think what you're asking, is it going straight to Barnes & Noble and not Games Workshop stores? I don't know. Nothing says it is. It seems generic enough that I could see it anywhere, to be honest with you. Faction exclusives don't get cycled out. It's true. So there would be reason to buy the old sets, but here's the thing. Is it Sierran? You're totally right. So like all the Fire Slayer exclusive cards don't get cycled out, but finding the box that has those cards is so difficult right now. But you can buy just the warband, just the models for like $25. So if there was just some way to get those cards, you know what I mean? Just throw them in the existing box. I don't know. The problem is just like, if you were to buy that warband set, you wouldn't have usable cards to go to an event. So my point is, have a neutral deck that any warband can take, and then find a way to get players their cards, whether they print it off online or whatever. I don't know. Don't care. I'm excited about it. So Games Workshop, that's what you need to do to get me and many people into the game. Consistency is great, but does Underworld suffer from power creep, i.e. card has another version, the same thing, better? In my experience, because I have played several games of it, I just never wanted to buy the physical copies because I kept falling behind. They come out with new rules concepts, but not necessarily always cards that are just flat better than others. My understanding is, you'll have stuff like the original factions had no wizards. Second wave did. Then the third wave had, like despoiling tokens where you can kind of play with the battlefield a bit more in Beastgrave. Obviously the first wave didn't. So like the game adds mechanics that newer warbands take advantage of. But as a card to card basis, it's not quite the same as Magic. I feel like there's different levers they can pull because it is fundamentally a miniatures game. So yeah. Now we're going to move into my main event. What I am most excited for. And friends, I'm going to tell you my thoughts while this preview is going. Warhammerquest Cursed City has struck my fancy in a way that I have not been struck in a long time. In the sense of a game that I feel like is perfectly suited to playing with friends in an online format as well as in person. And so it is my absolute goal. I want to try it with Silver Tower because I have that coming to me sometime this week. Thanks, Willie. But then also with obviously Cursed City, certainly mostly Cursed City because it's going to be an updated version of the rules. I'm going to be playing with patrons and viewers and all these kinds of things where I'm going to set up my good camera looking downward and we're going to play the game together with role-playing elements and all this kinds of stuff. Warhammerquest is a wonderful game, and I'm very excited about it. So it's definitely like we're all still in lockdown, and it's going to be a while before we're really out. So online community building and games together is just how I'm going to do it. I don't like TTS. I'm going to hang out with you guys and play games right here. That I would love to do it. So if that interests you, let me know. I've got everything from custom tiles that I'm going to be making and all these kinds of things. I could not be more excited. So Warhammer Quest is a cooperative game that sees you and your friends take to the streets of the cursed city to fight the hordes of the undead. If you've played Warhammer Quest games before, you'll recognize the rules, but the mechanics have been updated to be even more immersive and even more deadly. Ooh. That was a common complaint when it came to the old set. Silver Towers, like your characters were just like utter gods of war until the very end. Let's see. Sorry, itchy nose. And we're taking a look at the box set here. This isn't the best picture. It's a lot of white space, but we'll get to the models here in a bit. So essentially, if you've never seen a Silver Tower game before, what you're looking at is you explore the dungeon as you go. Now, this picture I don't necessarily think is representative of gameplay. I think it's more about like showing all the stuff in the set. But absolutely, you get a ton of enemies. You'll walk into a room. Someone has to like search what the heck is in this room, and that's when enemies will be revealed. And then you have different abilities based on your dice pools and that kind of stuff. And so, very cool things. It looks like they're keeping the shared dice pool. Essentially, once per round, you roll a bunch of dice, and like players can take from this pool and use it for themselves, but it is a limited resource. You have to work together and kind of share. And I'm curious how some of the mechanics have been updated. I'm very curious about that. If you don't know, it comes with a card that you are not supposed to open until the very end. So the idea of this game is at least the Silver Tower one. Let me tell you at least the Silver Tower one. It's a cooperative game, and you're trying to get to the end. However, even though it's cooperative, there is only one winner, true winner. You're trying to uncover the name of a Gaunt Summoner, which is a Tzeentch wizard hero. And every time you play a game where you meet up for a couple hours and go through these big dungeon things and that kind of stuff, at the end of it, you get a piece of its name. And at the end of several of these sessions, you're able to complete the name, and there is one winner. So I think that is pretty freaking cool. And hey, Doug, why does no one talk about the Warhammer Quest over Hammerhall? Mainly because it is such a radical departure to the rules. Hammerhall requires a game master, whereas all of these other ones, it's a dungeon explorer, fully cooperative, rather than having one player do a completely different role. That's why. And it seems like with Blackstone Fortress, they tested and liked the feedback they got, and so the GM stuff is out. So Hammerhall is kind of nixed, but Silver Tower abides, or like the other cooperative style thing abides. But honestly, there's a local store that has Shadows over Hammerhall. I might grab that just to have more floor tiles and heroes and all that kind of stuff. Throw it out there. So yeah, move on here. So anyway, yeah, at the end of it, once you've played all the games and that kind of stuff, you'll see there's a card that says, "Do not open until you win." And Blackstone Fortress had a fun thing where it's like you get a unique artifact, or you meld with an alien mind or something like that. All kinds of weird stuff. And then when you play further, you get cool other enhancements and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Let's see. Henrik again. Oh, buddy, thank you so much. Looking forward to get my grubby little hands on this as well and watch you play. Oh, buddy, thank you so much. So now we're going to take a look at some models that I cannot be more excited for. We have American Joan of Arc is what I'm going to call her. She's got this eagle on her shoulder. She's looking badass. I absolutely love it. The amount of twin-tailed comet imagery in these models is just stunning to me. I'm not even like a hardcore like Sigmar is the best kind of player. Like I accuse Vince Ventrella of being. This is just a wonderful model. It is absolutely Stunning. I love it because it's very Age of Sigmar in the ridiculousness of the size of this bird, why she's wearing it when she's going vampire hunting, a myriad of things that you're like, this is dumb fantasy. However, I look at this and I want to be very careful about how I word this and very attentive. I feel like looking at this model, this is a incredible depiction of a strong female character to the point where I think it makes all of the Adeptus Sororitas Sisters of Battle stuff look dumb. Like, if their goal with that army was to have strong female leads, I feel like this singular model does it better than that entire faction. She's badass. She's not over exaggerated when it comes to features or body parts. She just looks scary as hell, and I'm here for it. So that is my thoughts on her. I have the names and stuff pulled up somewhere else, but very exciting. I want to know more about. We'll go to their website and look at the lore behind them here in a hot sec. But yeah, very excited about that. Then we have our Witch Hunter guy. We've seen him. I'm not going to talk about him much just because, yeah, we've already seen him here. Leviticus, I've never actually seen Game of Thrones. I don't get that reference. I'm sorry. Then we have the new Caradhran Overlord hero, who I love him. He looks like a baron. I feel like if America became a hero in the mortal realms, it'd be this guy, just because he's loaded with guns and extravagance, but probably doesn't do a whole lot. Yeah, I love him. He's extra in all the right ways with Caradhran. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we talk about with Caradhran Overlord lore, how everything is based upon wealth and how you build, your own empire by your works and that kind of stuff. But we don't really see signs of affluence in terms of, he's wearing some stellar looking clothing, right? He looks fly. All he needs is a feather coming out of his side and a cane, and he's ready to hit the town, with all of his business associate female Caradhran Overlords. But absolutely love it. Completely redundant gas mask. It's never redundant. You never know when something's going to stink. I will answer the questions you guys have about Warhammer Cursed City, like RPG and that kind of stuff. Just give me a second. We're going to go through the heroes here first. Then we have our Kurnothi gal that we've already seen. Like her quite a bit. And then this guy. Wait, I have his thing pulled up here. Glario Van Alten III, and I feel like every time a player touches this model, like to move him or move him into combat or something like that, Tarantello has to play the absolutely, because he makes this look good. He is the Will Smith of this team from Men in Black, of just like walking in. He's got a single shot pistol, a little saber. Love the armor. Love this might be my favorite of the hero models. No, because I said that about the other gal. We'll say he's a great male lead, right? American Joan of Arc is number one. He's a good number two. And then there's Doug in 12 years. He looks awesome. He's doing great. He's doing his best. His beard's not looking as fuzzy. Kind of straightened out in his old age, but he's hanging in there. He's got his walking stick. He's got his battle tomes. I think this one under his left arm is Lumineth Realm Lords 18. And then in his right hand is Beasts of Chaos. Still the first one, still the first battle tome. They haven't updated that at all. And, I think he's doing his best. He needs a little sun, but, who doesn't? So that's all I got to say about this guy. I would replace his head and use him as a free guild general. Oh, yeah, I could see that. Oh, the other guy, yeah. As for this guy, the death dude, I like him quite a bit. He does have a weird death mask on. It looks like he's wearing a creepy doll face. But he is very cool. I will say, I love this model so much more than the actual Necromancer model. I never quite cared for the Necromancer model. Let me see. Because I feel like in several lore books, necromancers aren't necessarily this crotchety, bent over figure. Sometimes, like in the case of Nagash Undying King, they're a young woman who is like more described as like the whatever the chaos female leader is. A Dark Oath War Chieftain model. So I don't care for this too much, but this guy is, I think, if we're looking at reinterpretations of stuff, I think he nails it. Let me turn the volume up for me a little bit. Any ideas how much this will be? No concept whatsoever. And so my wallet sleeps in fear. Year 23 in quarantine. Doug is thinking about getting into his 7th Slaves to Darkness army after just selling the last one. You get me. Yes, he's like, oh, I love it. He went back to Maggotkin, and he has the Maggotkin Battle Tome in one hand, Wrath of the Ever-Chosen, Broken Realms tech list, because apparently there's some rules coming out in that. He's just got it all. Now, this model is another one. When I was thinking about my thought that I put forward earlier, that I believe the female sculpts here are better than the entire Sisters of Battle range for representing awesome female characters in this hobby. This is the other one I was thinking of. Again, it's definitely a Sigmar-themed wizard where we have the twin-tailed comet on everything. I love it. It's just, this is, instead of the warrior presence, this is the mage presence of that strong female archetype type thing that I was talking about. So I absolutely love this model. It's not one that I necessarily have a specific thing I want to convert with it or like that. I really like this model. It's just a very simple thing. This mage is mental, absolute badass. Absolutely. It has an imposing presence. Is she a mage or a priestess? I'm just going to use those interchangeably for right now. We don't know the rules or anything like that. So I'll go check the lore here in a second. But I just feel like most of the time when they do like these glowing effects in their hands, I tend to skip those because I think they're kind of extra. With hers, I think between the staff being out front and her hand glowing like that and having those two glows match makes it seem like even though she's standing still and up straight, she looks like she's in an action pose. She is actively casting something, whether it's healing or destruction. I don't care. So I like that quite a bit. And then there's Boss Hog. who just shows up. All these great heroes of Order and the Necromancer guy, and then there's just like, I heard there's a buffet in town and I've come to defeat it. So there's this guy, he is like a corpse eater guy. Super great ogre sculpt. I would love for him to function sort of like a man-eater in the Maw Tribes book. Yeah, just real cool. Not a real ogre, no gut plate. That's a good point. That's me in 12 years. Man, that's me in 12 months of more of quarantine. A non-dad ogre. Yes. Non-dad bod. Yep. I like it. He's a lean, mean, dead people eating machine. Apparently dead bodies have less calories. Good to know for our Soylent and Green days ahead. So, yeah, I'm excited. So these are just the heroes. I'm going to pause here because I want to answer some questions that were in the chat and they kept coming up. So Jamie, thank you for being patient with me. So what Warhammerquest Cursed City is, and what all the Warhammerquest games are, is they're essentially cooperative games where you and your friends are exploring a dungeon. It started way back ago with the Hero Quest kind of a style of game. But in terms of Age of Sigmar, I'm going to kind of limit my scope to there. It started with Warhammerquest Silver Tower, where you and your friends, I think if you were playing a 2-player game, you're on the same side. You each take command of 2 heroes, and you work together to explore a dungeon and destroy enemies there and get treasures. And there is a role-playing element to it. Absolutely, your character can level up. They can gain things. They can get injured. They can go unconscious. And so it is a great middle ground if you are looking to get role-playing game players into miniatures. I think it's a great game for that. Now, after Silver Tower, I think Games Workshop had that same thought, and they were like, oh, well, let's tick this meter a little bit more towards the role-playing game crowd, and they came out with Warhammerquest Shadows over Hammerhall, which was the same concept. You're exploring a dungeon, that kind of stuff, but this game required a game master, which was a different dynamic. And so it wasn't as well received. There was a bunch of stuff as well, like none of the sculpts were original to that set. Silver Tower had a bunch of new stuff, and under Hammerhall had like, repurposed heroes, a unit here of existing bad guy kits, Chaos, Marauder, not Marauders, Bloodbound, that kind of thing. And it wasn't as well received because it's a very different kind of game. And so they paused for a couple years, and then they came out with a game, Warhammerquest Blackstone Fortress, which was the same concept, but in a 40K setting. So their sci-fi intellectual property. And that game reverted back more to the Silver Tower thing. You don't need a game master, and you are working cooperatively, exploring dungeons, not sure what's behind every corner. There are, again, role-playing elements. There's things that you can do between excursions and missions. So again, it does appeal to the role-playing game crowd, but it's not necessarily a role-playing game. The miniatures and the board and stuff, it really does quite matter. And so Blackstone Fortress was important to this discussion because the other two games they released, Silver Tower and Shadows over Hammerhall, were one-offs. But Blackstone Fortress, they revealed a lot more. So the game set came out with a ton of miniatures and a ton of not rules like in a cumbersome way, but like adventures to go on and kind of stuff. And then over the next year, 2 years, something like that, someone tell me in the chat how long, they've been supporting it with like different expansions. So, hey, here's a box of all new bad guys that you can throw into your dungeon, and you can mix and here's the cards to make, the AI, so to speak, function in a unique way that includes them. And so with that, Games Workshop was able to produce a myriad of incredibly interesting models and sculpts, and they do work in some armies, but they don't have to. They can just be a Blackstone Fortress thing to enjoy this narrative and this setting. And so the reason why so many folks are so excited about Warhammerquest Cursed City is because the hope is that they're taking all the innovation and learning that they did from marketing and production and stuff like that from Blackstone Fortress back to the Age of Sigmar universe. So instead of being a one-off game, it's going to be a kick-ass game that has a ton of replayability in the core box, but then hopefully give us some cool expansions and one-off models to kind of bring it to life from there. So we can start having discussions about things in the lore that we don't need a whole army for, but we can have cool models, right? You can just have a model or two. That's all the designers have to do. And it doesn't have to be, a grand army or whatever. So that is kind of the difference there. Lord Valak, what's the difference between Hammerhall, which is the role-playing game you need a game master for, and Soulbound? Yes, so Soulbound is like a full tabletop role-playing where it's like D&D 5th edition type style of stuff in terms of like you create your character from the ground up and, all these things. It's absolute freedom. Where Shadows over Hammerhall, it is sort of in between absolute freedom and a miniatures game in the sense where you need a game master to tell you what's happening and plan your dungeon and come up with enemies and villains. But a lot more of the character creation is on rails. You have specific heroes you can play as. You're a little bit more limited, like in terms of comparing the two. They're just very different games. Like you can't walk into a Shadows over Hammerhall game and be like, I want to smash the barkeeper's face. There's no barkeeper. What are you talking about? You're in a dungeon, bro. Those kinds of things where it's like, it's not limitless storytelling. You are on rails a bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I played Silver Tower. I played 45 minutes of Shadows over Hammerhall when I was at Nova. And I could just tell it just requires so much more work from one of the players, the GM. So it just was a very different experience. So, sorry everybody. They'll need all of their cunning if they're going to save Ulfenkarn, for the city is at the mercy of the unspeakable horrors, from bat swarms to corpse rats and the dead walkers, zombies, Ulfenwatch, and Kasargi Night Guard. So yeah. Do you think GW will bring the Silver Tower heroes to Cursed City? I sure hope so, because I'm getting some Silver Tower heroes. Any idea how much this will be? Nope. We have no idea. No idea whatsoever. And I tend to not guess. Because if I try to guess, I start to cry. So here we go with our enemies. So these are some more of the enemies. And I have some more picks to kind of round it off. But we have bat swarms, which haven't existed in some time. Well, we have the old bat swarms, and they're just absolutely hideous. Where they have these like big metal rods that like come out of their butts and stab into the base. And so there's that. We have rat swarms, which is nice for me because in my Skaven painting project I'm doing, I don't actually have any rat swarms. So I was hoping to get some of these and use them as. Let's see. Dub styles. Don't want to repeat myself. No, please. If I miss your comment, please just keep repeating yourself and tag me like at 2+ stuff because otherwise I won't see it. But see my comment above if anyone wants to play Shadows over Hammerhall co-op. Cool. Yep. Reach out if you want to. Let's see. So yes, very excited for Skaven players because these are rat swarms that actually look cool. I mean, they're undead rats, but I mean, I feel like they fit right in with any pestilence army. Half those rats have their faces melted away. Do you think we'll get more than 1,000 points of Death Army in a Cursed City? Let me think about that. We'll have pictures of the whole set here in a second. Here are the Kasargi Night Guard. So I'm thinking elite warrior type things. Look more like Hulk, not constructs, but just big boys, as opposed to the Skeletons. We'll talk about here in a second. And here we have the skeleton warriors we've seen. And I'm just going to kind of breeze these because we talked about them a bit. So we have skeletons of different stripes. So we have one set here. No, wait, are those identical? Oh, they are. It's just like head swaps and stuff. These look like they're just made to be a Warcry warband, if I'm totally honest with you. Like, with those minor things as far as the head swaps and stuff, so you don't have, like, carbon copy. Those were zombie ogres. Were they? Really? That would be so cool. I didn't even think about that because they're so thin, but that is super rad. Cold shoulder for the win. Yes, the skeletons are absolutely fantastic. Does anyone find the zombie ogres kind of goofy? I think they kind of look like the zombies. What am I looking for? Let me find a good pic to show exactly what I mean. I think they look a lot like the zombies from Scooby-Doo. These guys, where you just have, you know, it's the same kind of art style, and this is from Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. If you folks want to have a nostalgia trip, I remember this movie. I was young, flush with cash, closer to God than I've ever been. It was the 6th grade. There's also a scene where the gang decapitates a zombie and just kind of passes his head around like it's a kickball, but no one seems to be emotionally scarred from that. So realism breaks down pretty quickly. Anyway, so I'm going to move back ahead. We got the zombies. They look great. And now this is the unit that a lot of people are mixed about. I'm just going to say this up front. I freaking love these models. They are the coolest thing in the world. And if you disagree, that's okay. I still love you, but fight me. So I absolutely love these models. I have wanted new zombies for some time, even if you don't like the sculpts. Like I'm assuming there's going to be a lore reason. We'll check out the Cursed City website here in a sec as to why they're all nailed to something specific. But here's the thing. Even if, let's say they come out with an actual box of like normal zombies, right? They're just kind of walking, shambling style. Look at the actual designs of the undead creatures themselves. They look stellar. Like this looks like a better zombie just in terms of like the humanoid aspect of it than anything that you can put together with the existing zombie kit. So this excites me for where it's going. Again, I want to see the lore reason for why they're all basically acting as human tables. But even that, the stuff on their back is just so cool. I would love it if there was some option to not put everything on their back for sure. Because at that point, it's just all of them have a very nice, clean line where you can just pop this off and throw some green stuff on, and that kind of thing. So I'd love to see the sprues. But honestly, I'm going to build them exactly as they are. Here's an alternate paint version of them. And I think they look stunning. So I'm over the moon about these guys. I've said it a few times since the rumors of vampires started to come. If you give me zombies, I will play a death army. I just refuse to buy and paint the Games Workshop, models. Leviticus, I like them. I just don't want 30 in that pose. Exactly. And that's my thought. It's like if it came out with a unit that was like normal zombies that just stand up straight, but have this same aesthetic, like in terms of like how it's actually sculpted with the skin and the rotting and that kind of stuff, and then mix these dudes in, I would love it. Love the one with the birdhouse on them. Yeah. yeah. I like them. So yeah. Okay, we got a bunch of questions here. I'm gonna pause here because we were covering a lot. Or just talk about some of the questions you guys are asking. Old zombies are better than new zombies? Aw, fight me. It's because they were buried in the realm of death and the city didn't want them to get back up. I feel like these are very different objects to be buried under, though. I don't know. 2+F versions of Co-op Hammerhall on Board Game Geek. Warhammerquest redo. Okay, cool. Yeah, go check those out if you want to play Shadows over Hammerhall. Yeah. Came from the moon. Hey, Doug, how would you summarize Underworlds, Warcry, and Quest? Okay, here we go. Ready? Rapid fire. Warhammer Underworlds is a mix between a miniature wargaming and Magic the Gathering thing. You build cards of decks that basically dictate what your warband's goals are. And you then play a game where you draw cards and that kind of stuff. And so it's half card game, half miniatures game, I would say. Edging more towards the card game side because deck building is so important in that. As for Warcry, that is a true skirmish game, meaning it is like Age of Sigmar, but it is just on a small scale. You have like 12 dudes instead of 80, and because it's a little bit more zoomed in on skirmish combat, you can do other stuff like have injury rolls, or people can have campaign progress and level up and stuff. But it is fundamentally a true miniatures game. As for Quest is taking those same miniatures in a dungeon explorer aspect where you have to move from one block of a place, like a city or on tiles and that kind of stuff. In Cursed City, you're moving through the city, of course. But foes will then pop up at random, and you and your friends are working cooperatively to survive and conquer. So the biggest thing about Quest is it's co-op, basically. And then, there's no list building, there's no deck building, anything like that. It is just a true cooperative game. That is my brief synopsis of all three. The girl bomb right looks like she's wearing pearl earrings. Had an awful day. Yeah. Let's see. Hey, Doug, I got a question. Hey, Nicholas. Would it be possible to play this models in a normal AOS game? Yes, it will be, because there is a booklet in Warhammerquest Cursed City that has the war scrolls, meaning the data you need to play these units in AOS. Now, what that'll look like, I have no freaking clue. That we have to wait for, but they will be. So let's see. Can you use a warband in a normal game? Tobias, I'm sorry, I need you to clarify a bit more. If you're asking if you can use an Underworlds warband, yes, they all have war scrolls. So do they like not properly bury them? Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, I mean, this is not even like a 6-inch deep grave. Came from the moon. You're more than welcome. 2+F. My metallic paints all look like glitter. What do you think I should do? I have never had that happen. I don't know. Does someone else know? Look at me. Can you play all models in the different game modes? No, they don't all. So here's how I'll word this. All the models that Games Workshop releases for fantasy can be used in Age of Sigmar, the mass army combat game. A overwhelming majority of units can be used in Warcry, the small skirmish game stuff. And then when it comes to Underworlds, they have very specific warbands. And then when it comes to Cursed City, I'm assuming they're going to have specific stuff. We don't quite know that yet. The point is, everything feeds upward. Everything feeds up into the main Age of Sigmar game. So if you have an Underworlds warband, yes, you can use it there. Can you use an Underworlds warband in Warcry? As proxies, sure, yeah, the models all have, war scrolls that exist. Can you use those in Warhammerquest? Probably not. So that's how I would say that. You brought me into Warhammer, and I'm very thankful for what you do. Oh, thank you so much, buddy. That means the world to me. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move along here. And here we've got, these are what I'm assuming are like the next level heroes, right? We're starting off strong with Inuyasha's brother. He's wearing the double wolf pelt. I love it. I feel like there's an unwritten love story between him and the American Eagle Joan of Arc lady of just having, oh, I see you have a large creature upon your shoulders. To which she seductively saunters towards him and goes, I see you have two, one on each. Would you like to get a coffee? Absolutely. And that's basically how that love story begins. Games Workshop, again, when you start doing Warhammer romance instead of Warhammer horror, you give me a call, buddy. I got all kinds of ideas for you. So we got this guy. I like him. I love the furs everywhere. He looks like a conqueror and a tyrant. I'm thinking he's the big boss of the game, but yeah. Oh, I am on the wrong camera. Thank you. The button didn't click. Thank you so much. Thank you. I was bopping around. So, yeah, this guy, I love him quite a bit. He's got the cool... I'm curious as to what this symbol, like the wolf symbol, I like that quite a bit. So, very cool guy. Then we've got this dude, the scientist. Hey, everybody, I switched the camera. I'll wait a second for you. Call me weird, but I'd love a legit Warhammer romance. Is that a first ever vampire ogre? I would love to think so. I'd love it. Do you think we'll be able to use some of my Legions of Nagash in Soulblight? Probably. It depends on what you have, but probably. And we have our scientist guy. We already covered him. We have our Lieutenant of the Dead. We already covered him. And here we have the guy who made the existing Vargulf model obsolete, and we'll never see it again. I'm just kidding. He is his own unique name and whatever, and I'll get to the names here in a hot sec. But yeah, big, nasty vampire monster. The Vargulf, correct me if I'm wrong lore-wise, he happened because... Is it because they don't eat? No, that's the bat wings. I don't know. Is the Vargulf because they don't feed? I can't remember. It's been so long since I've read the Legions of Nagash book. Yes, the wolf is confirmed to be the very first vampire ogre, and it's totally hype. Sweet. I love it. I love it. So this guy is super cool. I like the big monster. I want him to be like a big boss battle in the game at some point. I think it would be really cool. This was one of the first bad guys they showed off. I really do like him still. He's got Silent Hill vibes. And then we move into, there are three of them? Yeah, these three. And I wonder if they're going to work in tandem. Like, are these three collectively a boss battle? I would love that. Or do they fight individually? And essentially these are just like super scrappy little vampire guys darting around. I think it's they don't have enough blood. Yeah, that's what I meant. They haven't fed. Yeah, super cool. I'll be honest with you. One of my favorite things that Games Workshop makes on their models is candles. I know it sounds really dumb, but I love the way that they do candles and putting them everywhere, and then it gives you a nice little, like, object source lighting opportunities, and they just look great. And so, like, Games Workshop, if you could personally make me a zombie Luminaire army, I would be really down for that. Have fun. In the preview, they described them as working together like a pack of wolves. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping for, that they work in a tandem fight. So, there's one we saw, like, at the silhouette of in the preview. He's got that nice little fin thing going on. And there's this guy who's haunched forward over a monument bit. I like that. That's a cool pose. Very intimidating. Yeah, he's coming at you. And then there's every Daughter of Cain wannabe pose right there, where it's just, she took off her high heels and she's like, we got work to do. I don't have time to be running around in heels and a bikini. It's time to wolf out. And then she became this, and that's just red. So there's a lot of candles on Night Haunt. Yeah, but the thing is, I just don't care for the Night Haunt models when it comes to painting them. Let's see. See, Retentification, you say like a big zombie wolf, wasted potential. The whole point is that they can make one-off models for expansions, just like they did for Blackstone Fortress. Why not have a big giant wolf zombie later? Again, when I look at these things, the reason I'm so optimistic is not only what you see before you, it's what it allows them to do in the future. And, you say wasted potential, this whole box set is limitless potential. So I'm going to push back on you on that. Respect your opinion, absolutely. But I just really think that they have opened a door where they can have cool one-off models like that. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And then they show us what's in the box. And this is the... Here we go. There are some weird songs on this playlist here. Okay, we're good. So, okay, what's in the box? Obviously, the 8 heroes we covered. Your rule book and quest book, so you get the rules for how the game functions, and the quest book would be the different endeavors that I'm assuming places that you're trying to go to during the course of a game. We've seen their map on their website. They have different locations that you're fighting to. Okay, sorry, I was just reading the chat here. War Scroll books. So if anyone is wondering, this will be the booklet that comes in the box that gives you your points and rules for using these guys in Age of Sigmar. Will it allow them to be used in literally anything else? I don't know. Ideally, in my opinion, it would have something for Warcry too, but I don't think that that's high on their priority list. So, any whomst, we'll move along. There are 10 objective markers, which everyone should be excited for, because objective markers that are thematic are super fun. Because in the history of the world, no one ever fought over a friggin' poker chip, except for in Fallout New Vegas. But they fought over to get keys and dead bodies reclaimed and all these kinds of things. Counters and tokens, this is how you keep track of all your stuff. A full 28 dice, and I'm assuming that's so that each player can have their own respective set and that kind of thing. Boards, tiles, gateways, yep, this is going to be how you build the city and the dungeon that you're going through. Of course, I do want to make my own custom ones. The secret envelope is what I was talking about before, where at the end of Blackstone Fortress, there was like a secret that you had to beat the game. Sorry, hiccups are killing me today. Beat the game to get. And then we see all the cards you need to play. And there's everything here from the stats of your character, their action abilities, and then obviously the enemy cards that you'll draw to be like, this is how this person works. Yeah. So we'll throw that there. Alongside the box set comes Cursed City, novel by C.L. Werner. I like C.L. Werner. Within its pages, you'll find the inspiration to take on the murderous undead that plague the streets of Ulfenkarn, as well as a unique hero card to help in your quest. Okay, so there's the cover of our book, looking dope. And I'm so excited to read this the second it comes to, hopefully it's an audiobook as well, because I think Silver Tower was. I'm absolutely going to grab it. And for our last preview bit. I'm just going to tack this on because there's not a whole lot with it, but essentially we're getting a new Bellacor model. Bellacor, if you don't know, is the first ever chosen, the first one to, he's the only demon who doesn't owe allegiance to any god. He's undivided, and he's super rad. And his eternal punishment is he basically has to serve Archaon. But yeah, so I like him quite a bit. But we don't get a full preview of him. They're just kind of saying, oh, and there's other things coming. So let's go over here to the website. I really hope that they do, what's her name? Becca Scott? She does like tutorials and stuff like that. I'd love to see her take on things. So let's take a look at these characters. Imelda Brazkov. She is the American Joan of Arc is what I'm calling her. After her army was destroyed by Radukar the Wolf, Imelda turned her grief and shock into cold inner steel. She has vowed to slay the vampire at the heart of her beloved city or die in the attempt. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. She is so cool. Bellacor works better in AOS and fantasy than he does in 40k. Agreed. And we'll move along here. Do you think we'll be able to use the demon model in Khorne? Yes, probably. At least as an ally. Then there's Dagny Holdenstock. Y'all are asking like detailed questions, and there's just no details on these things yet. I apologize, but that's just the nature of what it is. It's a preview. I don't know any more than you guys. The Trade Commodore is known as a veteran entrepreneur with a knack for creative interpretations of the Caradron Code. Seeing Ulfenkarn as a potential treasure trove, he searches the streets for the riches he so desperately desires. That's a great motivation for any KO player to be anywhere, and I love it. Do you think the new Bellacor model being teased could mean new models for Slaves to Darkness? Maybe. I mean, technically he is the new model for Slaves to Darkness, but whether that means there's more coming, I don't know. Again, this is where people get disappointed in Games Workshop when it's like they build on things. They showed us Bellacor, but that doesn't mean there's anything coming with it. So, like, I don't get my hopes up, is what I'm saying. So I like him quite a bit. Glorio Van Ulten III, a brash young duelist and the last surviving member of the once proud Van Ulten dynasty. He now seeks to avenge his family's lost honor, starting with slaying his 3 cousins who each willingly received the blood kiss. I'm assuming that I would love it if that was the 3 vampire bat people that we saw who look like half wolves or whatever. It's time that all of those countless hours of training and swordsmanship are finally put to good use. Let's see. Keeping up with the chat here. Hope I don't come across as too negative. I wanted to be more psyched for the models. People's reasonings, interpretations have gotten me more psyched for the release. Thank you for that. Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, you know, I'm not, I don't like ridicule people for having negative opinions about things. You know, I have my own gripes with Lumineth Rumlord getting one release split into 2 with 2 books. I didn't like any of it, to be honest with you. So, like, there are negative reactions as a consumer, and you're allowed to have them, buddy. Don't worry about it. For me, I don't talk about things that aggravate me. So I put it out there, and I was like, I'll move along. Talk about something that makes me happy. So don't worry about it. You don't come off as negative. You know, you're allowed to have whatever you like. Let's see. Cleona Zeitengale, which I love, a missionary for the Cult of the Comet. That's an interesting sentence as a title. I like that. Cleona tried to warn the city of the cataclysm to come, but her warnings fell on deaf ears. Now, as the last of her order to survive, she summons the power of Sigmar to clear the streets of the vampiric scions of Nagash. So my first thought when I read this is the character I want to play. Straight up. I love anything that's like the Azurite Order or the Religion of Sigmar, that kind of stuff. I think that's a very interesting perspective that we haven't had for quite some time. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Let's see. Do you think I should get Curse City or finish my Khorne army? I think you should do whatever makes you happy. I don't tell people how to spend their money. It's a principle I have on the channel so that it never comes back and bites me in the tail. Then we have Octrin Glimscry. He is Doug in 12 years. Octrin has spent many years in the realm of death experimenting with the mortality manipulating realm stone known as Gravesand. He once worked alongside Torgilius Chamberlain, but now he seeks to end his former colleagues' experiments and free the city from its curse. I like it. Sigmar, bless this ravaged body. From Vermintide 2, if you guys didn't catch that. I love it. And then there's Brutog, Corpse Eater. This ogre mercenary has acquired a taste for long dead flesh and will happily eat skeletons, rotting zombies, and even mummified cadavers. He comes to Ulfenkarn not just to get his full of these delicacies, but also to prove he's the strongest ogre in all of Shyish. So my thought with the heroes, okay, we just read the lore for most of them. I guess what I am thinking is I love the fact that the heroes have some connection to the location. Like for a lot of them, you know, the first ones we saw, oh, it's a vampire hunter. Okay, but then we have other people, it's like, yeah, my 3 cousins fell to the curse. I need to get rid of them to restore the honor of my people. You have the Joan of Arc lady, I just keep calling her that, I keep forgetting her name, but like, you know, her order was destroyed and she's avenging them and all these kinds of things. One thing that stands out to me though is in my mind, I've talked about how there's 2 stories being told in Warhammerquest Cursed City. There's the backstory of how this city came to be ruled by vampires, and there's like inner turmoil and strife, and there was like an uprising and usurping, that's what I'm trying to find the word for, of control, and then the vampires took power. And so there's like a civil war story in there, but then there was also the current story that you and your other players are telling. And so the reason I find that interesting is because I thought that those 2 narratives were further apart. Like I thought all the things that happened in Ulfenkarn happened a long time ago, but the fact that these characters are human, mortal, and they're like, and I survived the events of that civil war means it couldn't have been that long ago. So that's an interesting thought that I just kind of threw out there. Hope we get something from Cubicle 7 that gives us info on making Soulbound campaign set in the Cursed City. Oh, I would love that. Honestly, I mean, they took like the 2 paragraphs that existed for Anvilgard and turned it into an entire supplement, so I have no doubt that can happen. Oh, man. So, yeah. And we're going to take a look at the villains. We already covered him, and him, and him. Okay. Vikros Bloodborne. When Radukar embarked upon his great purge, few members of the noble houses were spared. In return for an oath of loyalty, some were offered the blood kiss that became part of his thirsting court. Transformed into half-feral creatures, these princelings and duchesses now serve the wolf's will. They hunt down and assassinate any who question his dominance and stalk the death-shrouded streets of Ulfenkarn in search of prey and to torment and consume. Oh, 1 point here. Cheesy Sword with a donation. Hope we get something from Cubicle 7. Oh, I read that one. Yeah, thank you so much, buddy. That means the world to me. On my end, it just now popped up that there was a donation there. Thank you so much. Let's see. So that's the ones where we think they're all together. Radukar the Wolf. Radukar is the tyrannical master of Ulfenkarn, a vampire of ancient power and cunning whose ambition is matched only by his savage cruelty. The blood kiss gave him terrifying strength and eternal life, but also inflicted upon him an animalistic and almost uncontrollable blood rage. And then there's a bunch more information for the other various places. And these places were actually locked before. So the Corrupted Hall is a place of learning for the domain of Torgilius. That's the scientist guy. The Mighty Fortress is the seat of the Wolf King's power. So that's the main, I guess. The Screaming Spires, Wolf Bloodborne Sirelings make their lair between the towers here. Okay. Yeah, so my assumption is, okay, in this little map, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 places. My understanding based upon this is that in the quest book, there's going to be 10 distinct missions that will see you either liberate or fail to liberate Ulfenkarn. And I would not be surprised if each of those characters and that kind of stuff was a boss battle, and then This one where you fight the wolf is obviously, hopefully, the final boss. So that would be my theory. That's my speculation. Again, it could be totally wrong. The only one that I thought was strange that we didn't see much more of, where is it at? This is the bat-infested site of a former Sylvaneth embassy. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see vampire Sylvaneth, or like death-themed Sylvaneth. But we can get those later in an update. But anyway, so this is my understanding of the game. And I'm very excited about it. So, I think the one that mentions the Night Army may get an expansion box, absolutely. That'd be great. Because I think of the heroes that we get 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, like specific, very tied to specific location things, and there's 10 listed. So yeah. Oh, Mr. Big Bolum Zero, $15. Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you. It means it's awesome. First time catching you live. Can't thank you enough. Your lore videos on Slaves to Darkness or got me into Warhammer. Thanks for awesome work, and may the dark gods bless you. Well, thank you. This is a Vermintide-like game in AOS in the making. Absolutely. And I just look at this map and I could just stare at this thing for forever because I just love the way the city looks. It's a city layout that I could absolutely make for Warcry too. In terms of there's a graveyard in the center. I do have the Garden of Morset. You've got bustling, tight corridor cities that are all kind of scattered around to the left and to the right. But then if you look at the inner city, it's all very order and nice rows and streets, and I can absolutely do that too. I don't know. I'm just excited. I think it's really cool. Did you see the Broken Realms announcement at the end of the Bellacor teaser? First Prince rises. Come on. What am I missing? We're not giving it away too much right now, except to say that this is all tied in with the princely third book in the Broken Realms saga. Yes, if that's what you mean, the teaser, the written teaser. Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, do you think I should try to make Sylvaneth Place from the Sylvaneth minis and some other stuff? Again, I don't tell people how to spend their money, buddy. It's never going to happen. You can ask a million times. You do whatever you want. Sounds cool? Make it. You'll never get an answer from me that isn't, does that sound cool? Yes, then go ahead and do it. Kind of bums me out that Cursed City is taking away all the attention from Soreth Core, the quote-unquote city, in the Tome of Champions 2020 campaign. I get that, but also I don't really know what they want to do with Warcry, and this introduces us to some very cool stuff. I think if we're... 2+ stuffs are tell me how to spend my money. Okay. Buy stonks. So I think that it'll be interesting to see. Doug, should I put all my money on red? One other thing, they'll allow Old Silver Tower and Hammer Hall, Warhammerquest heroes and villains to be used in cursed cities. I would love that. With the grain, I would absolutely love to see that because they are also unique sculpts, and they're, they were kind of not designed with that game in mind, but they have hero cards that could be very easy to update. And even if they just came out in like a white dwarf or an online article as a PDF or something like that, why not? They've already designed it. People who bought Silver Tower, they already have painted heroes and stuff like that. The thing is, with Cursed City, they are introducing an updated game engine, right? This and Silver Tower... Let me go to the Mecam. This and Silver Tower are not radically different. Collection of heroes, a bunch of random monsters, and a few that you can use as like boss battle type things. So the fundamentals of the games are not different. If they give us ways of creating new enemies or characters or things like that, I would be ecstatic, because then I would just make my own Warhammerquest games using this game engine, right? Where it's like... I'm going to be getting some Game Master stuff from the Army Painter, where it's like you can make your own RPG tile terrain pieces and stuff like that. I'm going to measure out the size of the bases or size of the squares from Cursed City and Silver Tower. And I'm going to make my own boards where I'm going to be exploring a Garden of Nurgle and stuff like that. So like those kinds of things, I want them to exist. Absolutely. Yeah, so the game engine should apply to pretty much anything, so there's not really a reason why you couldn't just swap in other models provided that you have their information in some way, which again, it could be really easy to give. Let's see. I'm wondering who the 9th hero is. Could be Gotrek. Yeah, oh, the free one they give you in the book. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love it if it was something just so dumpy, like what's his bucket? The guy with the squid on his shoulder from Deepkin, or just a model that no one buys because he's an incredible model, but he's terrible in the game. Jamie, do you think there'll be 100,000 points of death in this list? Let's see. So you get 42 hostile units. It greatly depends because like zombies and skeletons tend to be very cheap. I would not. I don't think so. How about this? I'll give you a firm I wouldn't bet on it because we don't really know what updated vampire rules and stuff like that will be when Soulblight drops. But I can't really answer that question until we buy it. But the answer to your question will be in this book, Jamie, the War Scrolls book, because it'll have points. I'm assuming points and War Scrolls for all their entries. So I cannot give you a definitive answer, but I will once we get that in hand. Squid with a knife. Yeah, the Shank Squid. I love him. Yeah, so I can't tell you how excited I am. I almost forgot that this was a preview event and not just talking about Warhammerquest. The Lumineth Realmlord stuff, very cool. I just don't like the way that they actually sold the army in terms of how it was released. But I love all the models. And then there's our Night Haunt hero. I'm just going to scroll down here nice and slow. We got our sweet Night Haunt hero, which I just love him. Gardas, I think, is an important release because we need more heroes that are Age of Sigmar specific instead of just pulling from the well of the old world. Write new stuff. Then we have our White King on Mount, who is just stellar looking. Yeah, let's do that. Cursed City made me forget all about the awesome Bone Splitters. Me too. I've just been gushing on it for the last 45 minutes. And we do have some incredible Bone Splitter models coming. Absolutely love them. Anytime they take an updated range and just kind of reinvigorate it, I like it. Warhammer Underworlds. Games Workshop, figure it out. Come up with a way to get people in the game. We need generic decks that never expire so people can actually play your game. Help me help you. We're going to go Jerry Maguire style. And then, of course, Warhammerquest. So much to be excited about. One thing I will ask, did anybody watch the original Twitch stream? Because I was driving and commuting at the time. Was there any hints onto release dates or anything like that? I know they would never mention price and that kind of thing, but my favorite part of the release was the absolutely deadly looking White King on Mount. Yeah, that's a great call. I think if I had to pick one part of the release that I like, I'm actually going to go with this character. I'm just throwing it out there. She is my absolute favorite. She looks mysterious. When I played the game Fable, I always had a character with a big dark hood covering his eyes. I just love the way that looks. Yeah, so I'm excited. Looks like a resounding no. That's okay. I'd prefer them to keep it vague until it was like in hand, because I would hate for them to announce it and then it just keeps getting kicked back like, pretty much every release that Star Wars Legion is doing lately. No Chaos Dwarf, but there is this guy, a Keragen Overlord noble type, and he's pretty cool. She looks like she's pulling for the Cypher Lords. Yeah, definitely a Hysh vibe, because Cypher Lords, Lumineth, and both of those come from Hysh, so it's a cool little aesthetic. So cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and close out the stream, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. It meant a lot to me that folks wanted to hang out, even though I was a day late, because I was like, oh man, I missed this opportunity, but I had a wonderful time with family, and just ended up being a perfect weekend. So tune in tomorrow. We have some lore for the newborn of Slaanesh, as the kind of mega events of Age of Sigmar continue to unravel themselves. And hopefully this week I'm going to be doing a lot of build streams, because I will hopefully be getting my copy of Warhammerquest Silver Tower in, and I want to get started right away. Because honestly, once I have the core rulebook for Cursed City, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to retroactively go back and just apply that to Silver Tower. So that's the plan. I'm just going to do that. We're just going to hang out. We're going to play all kinds of games. We'll play Silver Tower until Cursed City drops. And then when Cursed City drops, we'll do both, because they're both really cool settings. So, friends, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. And I will catch you next time. Happy wargaming.